Welcome to the ITSP Magazine Podcast Network. You're tuning into an episode of the Redefining Society podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. Let's face it, the future is now. We live in a hybrid analog-digital society, and we must stop ignoring it or pretending that technology is not affecting us. The line between the physical and virtual worlds has become a figment of our imagination. On it, we are continually performing a dangerous balancing act, juggling convenience, privacy, freedom, security, technology, society, culture, and even the future of humanity. There is no better place than here, and no better time than now to muse on our relationship with technology and how to redefine what society means in this new age.
Black Cloak provides concierge cybersecurity protection to corporate executives and high net worth individuals to protect against hacking, reputational loss, financial loss, and the impacts of a corporate data breach. Learn more at blackcloak.io. BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
Hello everybody, this is Marco Ciappelli. Welcome to another episode of Redefining Society podcast, where we talk about society and technology. And lately we talk a lot about artificial intelligence. I made the joke that it's a drinking game. Every time you say generative AI, you have to drink something. Of course, if you are if you are in a bar, maybe in the UK or somewhere around the world. If it's early in the morning, please don't do that. Don't drink and drive. But jokes apart, there is one thing that I was wondering lately, because we were talking a lot about the Metaverse until about a year and a half ago. Every conversation was about the Metaverse. And lately, I haven't really heard much about it. I know there is a company named Meta that that changed the name, but I don't know how much it has to do with the Metaverse anymore. So when I got the idea of this conversation with Roberto Capodieci, which for a moment we were thinking maybe we should do the podcast in Italian, because he's a fellow Italian, although he doesn't live in Italy anymore, just like me. We were like, no, we'll do it in English, because we think we're going to have a bigger audience for that. And so you guys are lucky, my audience, listeners, we are going in English. We're going to talk about the Metaverse. And here's Roberto. Roberto, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hey, thank you for having me in the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, I am excited actually, because I have really ignored the Metaverse for a few months now. So I will ask you if it's even still a thing.
Right. Yeah, that's... It seems that in the past few years, we had all this wave of trends that bubble up and disappears. We had, blockchain, and blockchain is gone, but it's not gone. And then we had the Metaverse, which is gone, but it's not gone. Augmented reality, artificial intelligence was the 2023. 2024 is going to be robotics, I think. But yes, it's so, and like as you were saying, Facebook became Meta in really looking at the Metaverse. People believed in that so much, and then now people forgot about it. But there are a lot of projects that keep moving. I actually did. You were talking about having a podcast in Italian. I did an experimental podcast. We did only 26 episodes, I think, with an environmental psychologist and an architect talking about Metaverse. Metaverse under the technological aspect, which was me, architectural aspect, because there are no laws of physics in the Metaverse, and the relationship with the place where you are with this psychologist, which was a very interesting thing. And we analyzed many of the projects that were on, interesting, understanding what was actually working and what was not working, what was more cool to see and try for 10 minutes and then abandon, and what was actually more something to go back in there. So I got my culture on the Metaverse. And I have to say that I do believe humanity is not ready for such an immersive virtual world yet. But is a good means to get to augmented reality, which is actually something that I think is gonna stick way more than the idea of metaverse, because it's way more useful, and mixed with artificial intelligence now, a lot of things that were nice but not practical are going to become very practical. So, the combination of those technologies probably are going to bring some advancement on how we use technology on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, and I agree, because especially when you look at things that you say from a sociological perspective, it's not just about how cool the technology is. It has to be easy to use. So there's going to be the early adopter that are going to jump into it. And now we're going to talk about your past a little bit and my past. So I'm going to start going there. I remember the time of when even to set up a modem, a dial-up modem, you needed a degree in computer science or in engineering. And so only a few were just having fun with that back in the days. And then it become easy, it become more accessible. Now the internet is on our phone, so even if you don't know how to use a computer, it's kind of like converging technologies and usability in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some very funny facts. I was talking to a guy, checking the internet connectivity, and this guy was chatting on Facebook, and I told him, "Oh, you have internet then?" He says, "No, I don't have internet. This is Facebook." And I was like, well, the moment that you're using something like that, behind that there is the internet, and the guy had no even idea. So, and this is beautiful in a certain way, because that's how it should be, right? People should use the service without being concerned about what there is behind. Right. But in the same way, it's true. There was this funny idea that email will never stick, because sending a fax is much easier. In a fax, you take a piece of paper, write what you want, you put it inside the machine, dial the number, and it's arriving on. With the email, you need to write, and then start the computer, turn it on, then put with the keyboard the things in, connect with the modem. And you remember, we always call people to say, "Hey, I sent you an email, did you receive it on the phone?" Which was very silly, because at that point...
There is still people that do that. I get a text that says, "I sent you an email." I'm like, okay.
But now it's for the opposite reason. I receive after filter about 450 emails per day. If people don't tell me, search for my email, most probably I'm gonna miss it. So that. But at the time, it was something that people didn't look at, because it was such a novelty. So I believe that if we bring this analogy to today, state of technology, this may apply also for virtual reality, augmented reality. I wouldn't say for artificial intelligence, because these are stuck immediately in people's life. I don't know somebody that works doesn't use ChatGPT as of today, which is beautiful and incredible. It's a revolution on its own. But decentralization, which I am a big supporter of, and blockchain, all those technology are there. They had their own spotlight moment, which was bad, I think, but now they're going to be used for actual use case, which is the good things at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And they will connect.
Let's do that. Let's do this. For the people that don't know who you are, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do in the industry, but my podcast, there's people that are just curious about technology. So give me, a quick version, because I know your bio is actually very long. I couldn't make it to it on your website, but a short version of how you started. I kind of made a joke there about the dial-up modem, because we were chatting before starting to record, of how you got started into the hacking community and coding and all of that. So give us a short version of who is Roberto.
In less than 1 hour. Okay. So. Now, I have to say
we can do multiple episodes if you want.
Life of Roberto, part 3 out of 25. Now, just simply, I have an age. I'm going to be 50 years old next year. I know I look 25, but not. And I was born in the right moment to surf the wave of, home computing and technology, that was available to the masses. And so I found myself in the right place, in the right moment, in many occasions, right? Starting as a kid, when I learned coding, then I sold the first video game when I was 10 years old only, which was a big satisfaction also to see money coming in for my work, my hobby. Then I started the company with authorization of the court for minors because I was underage when I started my first company. And from there, I've been an entrepreneur, more or less, hands-on coder, but as well manager. Starting, when I was 19, there were more than 50 people working with me. So it was already quite a challenge without any school, because that was my university, like a real life experience in managing companies. And that's been my life. I was fascinated with telecommunications. Since I was a little kid, I love, you will remember in Italy, phone booth use a particular token. It was shaped in a particular way to make phone calls, so that you cannot use normal coins. And I would love to buy one of these, which was 100 liras worth before it became 200 liras worth overnight, and dial a number in Japan, just to hear somebody pick up the phone, and then the phone line would drop because it would last just a few seconds. But the idea that a little kid from Venice, Italy, would have somebody in Japan get up from their bed, because probably it was night over there when I was making the call, to go answer the phone. It was a powerful thing, right? I had the power to affect something on the other side of the planet. And this was the fascination. So telecommunication has been one of the key elements in my growth in the IT world. And if you think about the evolution of information technology, we start digitizing analog material, like videos and disc and music, radio. We came from analog vinyl discs to compact disc, digital. Then we start transmitting this digital data over the network. Then we start using this as services. And like everything transformed to digital, right? And this now is the phase to become decentralized. So telecommunication and decentralization were interesting, particularly when BitTorrent came out. BitTorrent is a protocol to share data in a peer-to-peer network. It was a paradigm compared to the previous way of sharing Napster or others, where we're centralized server. I was fascinated with the fact that the regulator had to change law. Before, it was illegal to distribute. Then it was illegal to use or download the data, because in a peer-to-peer network, there is no way to identify one single responsible person. And this was, and you cannot even kill it, because so many nodes support this like animal that lives his own life, right? And that to me was the base of the future. And that when I start studying peer-to-peer network protocols, I tried to hack the BitTorrent protocol to make a decentralized file system. And this brought me into blockchain and, where I am now. In a long process that has a lot of other details that, as you say, too long to share.
Well, it's fascinating because you can tell a story for each single part of what you just described. But there is one thing that it really kind of stuck in my head, actually two. So one, the story of you using a gettone, that's what it's called in Italy, to make that call. I had the fascination, and I still have it, for radio. And that's probably why I end up doing podcasts. So for me was the idea to pick up the radio, even when I was a kid, FM or AM, or even if you take the shortwave, and be able to maybe pick something, I don't know, in Italy myself also, maybe in France, maybe in Switzerland. And that being connected, I really relate with the story of you waking up someone in Japan.
I had a CB, Citizen Band's machine, and that was part of it. Then VHF radios, we did the packet data transmitting through VHF radios. So it was also something that worked with me. I never took the license for VHF, but I was paying my taxation to have an antenna for my CD and the radio communication, because it's part of communication, telecommunication, communication.
Yeah,
so
it is. And you describe it very well, the evolution of starting with that, then the internet, the nodes, and if people are familiar with how the internet was born, the first communication between the university in the United States. But now we are to, let's fast forward, and we are where everything is already connected. People are connected, as you said, on their phone. They don't even think it's the internet, but sorry, it is the internet. and the metaverse, it's kind of, to go back there, for me it's the next level of being present virtually somewhere. And as I always say, we live in hybrid life, right? We live a life nowadays that is online, social media, and the things that we do online, maybe the virtual reality, the metaverse, video gaming, online video games. And then we also live in the real world. But I don't think the one is less real than the other. At least that's my theory. We do live there. So the metaverse for me was kind of like this next step of really having a place that is virtual.
I have to say that is, in fact, there are very interesting aspects beside the technical part, which is the one that interests me most, but psychological aspect on the being something else, right? So people that are insecure about their presence, their avatar is representing, or I remember even going back many, many, many years, like almost 30 years ago, when the first chat, IRC, Internet Relay Chat, was the first thing that came out there. And people were not judged by their appearance because they were behind the wall of text that they were writing. And so strangely, loves were born between two people that they didn't even know about each other. We were saying there are no women at the time in the internet. There are only guys that pretend to be women. And I even remember in a chat on forum for developers, developers that pretend to be a woman just to have all the other to offer help in coding, and getting work done for free. It is interesting how our brain get easily tricked when we don't know. This is one reason why I'm also doing a podcast series to prevent people falling for scams, online scam, romance scam, or refund scams and other things like that, because mostly people that is less strong in personality or not very, let's say, they can think, more simple people, they just tend to believe easily what there is on the other side, idealizing what there is on the other side of a computer. And the metaverse increase even more this risk, because we can even actually see something that is not actually what it is, right? And when you start a business and people don't know anything about your business, the business card and the secretary answering the phone are the only 2 meters of evaluation of how good is your business. Have a beautiful business card, a very pleasant voice and polite person answering the phone, and they think your business is amazing, right? Maybe you have the worst product inside. At the vice versa, you can have the best product, but you have an ugly business card and a very rude person answering the phone. They think your product is not good, because mentally we tend to associate things. Is our instinct, that make us survive, that bring us to this. But now we're tricked. And if you think with artificial intelligence today, sorry if I bring this in the table, but it's going to be linked to the metaverse as well. Nowadays, you cannot believe anything. People is watching this podcast, see me talking. It could be fake. There is no measure to say that I've been saying this thing. The voice is mine, but may have never said this thing. My face is moving. I'm going to put the finger on my nose now. Maybe I never did it, right? It's all created by a computer. And so this level of possibility to trick the brain of somebody consuming this material, visual, audio, and who knows tomorrow, even sensory of other kind, can really play crazy tricks on our brain. So in a certain way, we need to have the time to educate people to live this kind of level of technology. But technology goes so fast that we don't have anymore. There are already people going in recovery for dependency on ChatGPT. My wife, sometimes she has a business and she's doing amazing because she can write fabulous things in English without knowing English very well. And I asked, what you're doing? I'm chatting with ChatGPT for work. It becomes really something that we start depending on. And while before it was person to person, so you need another human being on the other side. Now you can be in a room with 100 people that they have perfect conversation with you, that look perfectly normal, and they're all generated by computer, which multiply the danger of falling for something that is not to the, N level.
Yeah, it's funny because going back to memory lane again, when you talked about the chats, the original like AOL chat back in the 90s, it makes me think about what you say. There was a famous joke that it was a one of those funny drawing on the New York Times, which became famous because there's two dogs that are on the computer, and one said to the other, in the internet, nobody knows that you are a dog. And it's kind of like symbolize that at the time. And so imagine now in the new days where you can really, not just because people cannot see you, but you can really pretend to be someone else.
Right.
It's pretty scary.
It's funny.
And I'm wondering how that applies on to the metaverse. Like now with generative AI, do you see a different metaverse than the one maybe you were discussing with your with the three of you guys when on the podcast?
It's incredible how 1 year of difference make everything. Right? Yeah, we did that in 2022, I think 21, 22. So yeah. This really was before ChatGPT. It's an epoch. I think many things. It's funny, like when I watch some movie or TV shows, then people is wearing a mask. I already know when has been shot because it was during the pandemic, right? So ChatGPT, I think it created an epoch as well. So what it was before, I had a friend that published a book before ChatGPT, and I congratulate to him. He says, because you're one of the last authors that there is no doubt that you wrote the book and not ChatGPT wrote the book for you, because there was not ChatGPT. Nowadays, who knows?
We're going to have a new calendar before ChatGPT and after ChatGPT.
Correct. Year one after ChatGPT. But, no, seriously, think about the implication of one thing in the other. I'd like to talk about 1 second about how those technologies comes together. First of all, there are bad and good in everything. So as everything like medicine, you can use it for good, you can use it for bad. So let's just try to talk about the good side of those technologies. So for what it concerns blockchain and decentralization, blockchain brought the biggest miracle the blockchain brought, because everybody talk about cryptocurrency, which is the last thing that interests me. But probably if it wasn't about money, nobody would know blockchain today, right? So probably that was the good entry door, but the things that can do are many more than just cryptocurrencies, right? The biggest miracle is that in the digital moment of this era, the information era they were living, the digital moment, you can finally have something unique. Before, if I have an MP3, I make 10 copies. You don't even know which is the original copy out of the 10. And, you distribute them, everybody has exactly the same thing. Thank God I cannot make a copy of my Bitcoin, because if I make a copy of my Bitcoin, I give to you the copy and it's still good, then Bitcoin will be worth zero today, right? So the idea that in the digital world, you can have something that is unique, that's the huge revolution that blockchain brings to the table. And this applies, for example, in digital properties. So yeah, a lot of big talk about NFT, silly monkey sold for millions, which is something I don't want to even comment about, because there are no reason to pay those money for some monkeys, in my opinion. But you can have the title of your car that is like an NFT. And so when you sell the car, you pass the NFT to somebody else. And this gives the digital capacity to be something that is unique, right? And in the application of this in the metaverse, like is happening in the gaming world, once you buy a gun for a game as an accessory, they pay money. Like my daughter use, I don't make names not to advertise, but some place where there are virtual games with kids, and her avatar, it must be worth $2,000 at least, because she has the wings, the jacket or such. There are some brands that are selling also digital assets for those avatars. And the fact that a decentralized system that is above the parts of one vendor of a game or another allow me to take my hat that I bought it in a game and use it in another game. They're completely detached from the first, just because there is a compatibility protocol dictated by something external like a blockchain. Then start giving people the possibility to accumulate value in a virtual world, okay? Which is something that is very interesting to understand, because there is people that can find a job in the virtual world. And now things people that have mobility issues because they are stuck at home, because they have a medical issue, they need to be next to a certain machinery, or they cannot move around because they have disabilities. The possibility to live and interact through a virtual world and also make a life, making money, that's something that is possible just thanks to these latest technologies put together, right? The only risk, in my opinion, but that's my opinion only, is that everything goes in the hand of a single company. They changed the name, for example, for this. Because we started everything in a decentralized way. When the email started to be used, every company had their own mail server in office, installed in a computer. So you had the thousands, hundreds of thousands of mail servers around the world. And when you distribute mail is distributed to the mail server of each company. Today, there are 4 or 5 companies that manage all the mail of the world. So they centralize something that was supposed to be decentralized. And this is for every social media is fully centralized. There are just a few companies that hold all the information that we give them. And this need to shift back to be decentralized. We need to re-decentralize. Actually, with the technology we have today, we can do it even better. So changing the paradigm in how information is managed.
I felt you were reading a passage from Ready Player One about the Oasis.
I don't know that, but probably somebody that thinks like me.
Oh yeah, Ready Player One. It's one of the follower of the famous Snow Crash and many others, and it's a company that it's a book. It's a company that pretty much give access to kind of like a post, not atomic, but kind of like a way in the future where people work. Yeah, pretty much. Where people work and study online. They put their goggles, the virtual goggles, and they go to work, they go to school, and then there's an adventure there. Anyway, I thought you knew about it. It's actually a really good book. But what fascinates me about the way you presented it, and I already had an opinion about that, is, again, forget the money and the fake and the NFTs and all of that. But the fact that you can trace everything, you can use it as a contract. And you can even now trace that if a food product comes really from where they say it comes. I mean, that for me gives the trust that maybe we need for technology.
Yeah, it removes the need of trusting, which is the beautiful things, right?
Right. That's true. That's true. Philosophically speaking, then you don't even need the trust because you know it is or is not, right?
But I lecture at the university, even though my school ends at the kindergarten. I lecture at the university about consensus mechanics for the centralized peer-to-peer systems. And I explain blockchain not with cryptocurrency, but like a tic-tac-toe or a chess game where people can post transaction. There are moves, and the rules of the game are in the protocol in all the nodes. So if the move is legit, then it passes as transaction. If not, it's bounced as transaction, which is this the basic concept, right? It's like having a network, like a phone network. They only let go through phone calls that are polite and not rude, for example. Yeah, it's correct. But the beautiful thing is this: like, it can reduce to the minimum common denominator what are the rules underneath, and allow people to build on top. But guarantees all the party that what goes through respect those basic rules. And this seems little, but this is a huge revolution in the telecommunication, data transfer, if you want, methods, right? And I think it's not being yet understood, but eventually will be, and it's going to be really something that think a metaverse in the case of augmented reality, where the information that you are using are validated. That the person is not a fake or created by artificial intelligence, rather is somebody true. You can guarantee that, because one thing we don't know, that what you meet is always the same person. In a metaverse, everybody can personate everybody, right? Even more than you can do it with the deep fake.
You don't know who logged in with that.
Right. But with cryptography, you can.
Right.
So with the sort of a cryptographical handshake, you can guarantee that even if it looks like a dog, that's the refrigerator of your house and not the dog, right?
Yeah, and there is that thing that now it allows to bring, as you say in the video games, what you own, you can bring it somewhere else. And one of the issue I had when I was having this conversation about the metaverse was that they call it the metaverse, like there is one, right? Like you're just going in this one metaverse. But the truth was that was like going from one planet to another. And it's not that you carry, or at least not at the time, you weren't carrying your digital Gucci bag that maybe you pay $350, maybe even more, I don't know, or your weapons or your sword or your wings from one metaverse to another. It's almost like, oh no, it's just another garden wall.
There is
a
fantastic analogy for this that many people can relate to. When internet was born, you connect to a website, right? Mostly with an IP address at the beginning because the name service was still experimental. I remember when I was living in Florida, if you go to HTTP Capodieci, you go to my computer. There was no .com or .whatever. You can really register whatever you want in the name service. Anyways, the idea was that you have a page with text. And when hyperlinks got invented, the HTML, right, got invented, the fact was that if I'm writing an article about trees, and there is a particular name of a tree, and somebody else had a website talking about those trees, I can link the word to their website. So when you read my article, you click the word, and something that seems so obvious and normal today wasn't obvious at the time, right?
Yeah.
The real idea of metaverse, which doesn't exist today, because there are many virtual worlds for a game or for another, but there is not yet. It's like there were many websites, but you need to go in each one, right?
Yeah.
The difference was when you can link from one to the other. Now, with the metaverse, the only difference is that while the web was just passive, meaning that you are reading this page, doesn't matter who you are. In the metaverse, who you are matters. And you should be always the same. You cannot have one account in a metaverse in a virtual world, and another one in another with a different avatar. You should be always the same person that travel through different servers, different virtual world, however they are managed. And the guarantee to be always the same person. So if you cut my arm in this world, I should be without my arm in the next one that I go to, is given by something that has to be above those servers. And here with a peer-to-peer network like blockchain-based or not, but still a decentralized distributed system can record the identities with whatever happened to those identities, right? So you give me a present in a world, I should have the present with me wherever I go, which I can use or not, that's a different thing. So the first experiment for this thing are being done with games now. Many games are multi-user, immersive. There could be, in effect, a little piece of what is going to be a metaverse, right? I don't know, you're playing a shooting game, clean yourself from the blood, enter in the office, start working, and then, go out and kill another few people, then go to school. Probably better kill them out than in the school for real, like happens often. But, so the idea is that I believe that, even in school, like studying, something that really puzzled me, like, okay, we know the conspiracy, the school is there just to create the low class or middle class workers. But in the past, when I was a kid, probably you're younger than me, maybe, I don't know, but
I'm older than you, so.
You're older than me, okay, so you know better than me.
Years, not many, few years.
When we were kids, either you have an encyclopedia at home, or you have an uncle or a parent that knows very well, or is a teacher telling you things. There is no other way for you to gain knowledge. Today, knowledge is so available. And it's just the need to learn how to collect the knowledge, how to access it. And school, they shouldn't teach you subjects. They should teach you how to learn, because
that's what education is, teaching you how to learn.
Absolutely, because I don't need a teacher. They sit in front of 20, 30 kids. I need to teach all 30 kids the same thing, going to the speed of the slowest kid, or average. So if he's average, then the slowest feel left behind, and the top one feel bored. So you need to really, while an artificial intelligence, I don't know if you watched the movie Her. It's a chick flick, but it gives a lot of insight.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
The single artificial intelligence can teach individually to every single kid a customized lesson, color with whatever the kid likes. He likes dance, he likes soccer, he likes whatever. So I can teach you math through soccer, I can teach you math through dance, I can teach. So the power of teaching and the need for learning are there. The method that we're using is completely wrong, right? But the technology we have today can change completely the paradigm. And this is an important aspect on the application. So the Metaverse is fantastic. With the three people that were doing this podcast about the Metaverse, as I was saying, there is me, technical, an architect, for the architects of Metaverse, and a psychologist that studied the relationship between human and the space that they are.
Yep.
They made studies for which human needs to stay in contact with nature. If you stay away from nature, you really get sick. So staying next to nature is important. But doesn't have to be real nature. You can have a painting of a jungle in the wall of your house. It works very well. You can put an helmet that stay in nature through virtual reality, and it works fantastic because the brain is stimulated in the same way. And the Metaverse may have this effect of helping me to meditate and bring me on top of the mountain, to feel cozy, stay next to the fire in the snow, rather than having this moment of wildness in the jungle while I'm still at home. So it has a lot of positive effects, and I can share this with friends. And in terms of education, this can be millions times. I can live inside the Roman Empire. I can see building the pyramids rather than, So I think that we need to embrace this new technology, giving them a real use case, not just because they're cool.
and teaching how we can go to the example of ChatGPT and how many teacher wants to ban it from school. That's a mistake. It's going to get into school anyway. You take the opportunity to teach kids how to use it. Let me ask you one last question, and then I have a feeling you can come back anytime and we keep going with this conversation on another episode. But I've always been curious about the idea of the metaverse, that for someone has to be a virtual reality. For other, say, well, an augmented reality is already a metaverse. And there was some people that were like, well, even if you're playing a video game in 2D or in 3D, but on the screen, and you are into the character, you're already in a metaverse. So what is your opinion on that? Does it require a certain...
Absolutely. I wrote a long article about this, right? So to me, it's just the aspect of putting together many words, right? So the paradigm is this: I need to be me everywhere I go, okay? And not different accounts. So the identity has to be the same. And I can be even in a text based game, right? Where, go north, go left, go right, or whatever. Because I need to be able to have a protocol that brings me inside different worlds. That's why I'm saying Metaverse doesn't exist today yet. There are some experiments, but when there is a protocol that put all this together, then you can jump from a video game to the classroom to the workspace.
That will be the Metaverse.
Right, correct, exactly. But it doesn't have to be helmet, and it can be absolutely even, doesn't matter. It's just a different interface. But the juice at the end is that, right? Because
for a lot of people that I've spoke to, people that maybe don't understand the technology or don't want to look at the philosophy of that technology and how you can experience certain things in a different world as long as you really experience it. You have emotions, you're there. But there is this idea, and I think, again, Meta maybe didn't help into changing people's perspective on it, is that you need to put your goggles on, provided to you by Meta, and then go into the metaverse and not understanding that is actually a togetherness. And again, the example you brought about the original internet became some sort of the metaverse itself, I think is very clear to understand, even for people that do not understand.
The only difference is that I need to keep my identity with me.
Right.
Surfing the web, normally you're passive. They don't know who you are, right? You just go through many websites that they're linked to each other. Do the same thing, but keep your identity there, and then you're in the metaverse. I think even if it's just text, what you see doesn't matter.
And of course, blockchain is at the core of this.
And I think that a peer-to-peer decentralized system that manage identities, because once you can guarantee the identity is the same, it doesn't really matter who is the person behind the identity. If that's always the identity, that's already a guarantee, right? I spoke with you yesterday. You can prove me today that you are the same person. Doesn't matter if you're the refrigerator, the dog, or your male or female or whatever. Exactly, correct. But I know that you are that. So if I lend you money, it's you that hold me back money. At the same time, if we had a nice chat, I can continue with the chat because I'm guaranteed that you are the same person. This is the key aspect, and this attached value, meaning I can sell you items, I can buy, I can ask you to do work for me, or I can do work for you, and can enable millions of possibilities. And that's the metaverse that is powerful in terms of possibilities. Then if it's VR and 3D, well, even better.
Yep.
Go see Neuralink with Elon Musk. What they're gonna do?
God.
They're gonna.
Oh God! The thought police is here.
You must have seen Black Mirror, the series in Netflix, which gives a beautiful future view on backing up your soul, if you want, into a computer.
And kind of scary too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's a long way from a floppy disk to the metaverse, but it all started even before that, right?
With the icon of saving. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Roberto, I'm gonna kill the conversation here, although I want to keep having it because we're 40 minutes in. But I would be very happy to have you back on the show and keep the conversation going. And for all the people that are listening, I hope that you enjoy. And that made you think. Maybe if you are our age, you can kind of, have a little bit of a memory lane
nostalgia
journey, a little bit of nostalgia. That we can do it in 2 languages here. and if you're younger, go check out what the internet was before it was on the phone. It was a little bit. I think it was more fun, but again, now I sound old.
Every age has some new rounds. I think I was talking to my little girl and say, you were born and you don't even know what you got now and what I didn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Roberto, thank you very much. I hope to chat with you very, very soon again. Great connection. And for everybody listening, subscribe to Redefining Society podcast and connect with Roberto. There will be links to his website and the things that he does in the notes for this podcast. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com. Black Cloak provides concierge cybersecurity protection to corporate executives and high net worth individuals to protect against hacking, reputational loss, financial laws, and the impact of a corporate data breach. Learn more at blackcloak.io.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Redefining Society podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. If you learned something new, and this conversation made you think, then add this show to your favorite podcast player, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share the ITSP Magazine podcast network with your friends, family, and colleagues. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey.
Insights, solutions, and networking all come together at RSA Conference. Join a global cybersecurity community at rsaconference.com/ITSP Mag 24.